you got? Hey, Bobby Brown, Terry Blue.
This is Larry Campbell.
And Teresa Williams.
You're listening to Rita Ryan.
On LocalMotion at 91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio in Poughkeepsie.
91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You are tuned into Local Motion here. I'm your host, Rita Ryan. It is 5:13 p.m. I'm thrilled to say I have Victor Wooten on the line with me. So now we're going to get him on the line with everyone and get him on the airwaves here as soon as I can figure all this out, because we are live. So we are doing this, and let's see. Okay. Let's get it going. Victor? Oh, hello? Victor?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. I'm glad I didn't disconnect you. That's a wonderful thing. Thank you. We are live on air, Victor, and I just want to do a brief introduction, if I may, and then we'll start our little conversation. We've just been listening to some wonderful music you just recently came out with. So to the listeners here of 91.3 Local Motion, composer, author, producer, educator, multi-instrumentalist, and recipient of 5 Grammy Awards, Victor Wooten has won Bass Player of the Year award from Bass Player magazine 3 times, and is the first person to win that award more than once. In 2011, he was named number 10. He was named in the top 10 bassists of all time by Rolling Stone magazine. His first solo project, A Show of Hands, was voted one of the most important bass records of all time. His book, The Music Lesson, A Spiritual Search for Growth Through Music, is a must-read for musicians worldwide. His 10th and latest release, Tripnotics, features Dennis Chambers and Bob Franceschini. A very warm welcome to you here at Local Motion, Victor Wooten. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you. What an introduction.
Well, listen, what a career.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed learning more about you. And congratulations on a CD that you just guys came out with a few months back, Tripnotics. What a powerful trio you are.
Thank you. We're having fun with this music.
I
Well,
bet.
Thank you for listening to it.
Yeah,
thanks.
it's a real pleasure. We actually just played a few tracks here on this show, and we played Funky D and Cruising Altitude. So
Nice.
we're taking off
Michael
here.
Winslow, Funky D with Michael Winslow. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hey, I'd like to get people a little bit more familiar, if they aren't already. Your youth, what an interesting youth you had. You're the youngest of 5 boys.
That's correct.
Yeah, born in Idaho, but moved all over the place. But it sounds like you spent some time in Hawaii before moving to Virginia.
That's correct, yeah. That's where I started playing music with my brothers at around age 2 or so, was in Hawaii. My dad was military, so we moved around quite a bit.
Now, is it true that your brother Reggie had a 6-string guitar, took 2 strings off, and gave it to you to learn how to play bass?
Yeah, that was my first real instrument.
Wow.
Before that, they just gave me a toy.
Uh-huh.
It was a Mickey Mouse guitar, a little wind-up Mickey Mouse guitar. And what they were doing was just having me jam along with them while holding an instrument. So no one was saying, you got to put your finger here, you got to do this. It was just, let's just jam, sort of like baby talk. But I was able to do it while holding an instrument. Then when I was actually old enough to sit up by myself and all that kind of stuff, Reggie took 2 of the strings off of one of his guitars, and that became my first instrument that I played in the band with.
Wow. What a great teacher you had. And Reggie's 8 years older than you?
Yeah, only 8. So think about this. When I'm 2, Reggie's only 10.
Right.
And he's teaching me to play bass. He also taught my brother Joseph how to play keyboards.
Wow. Yeah.
And by the time I was 5 and 6 years old, which meant Reggie was only 13 or 14, we were the opening band for Curtis Mayfield's Superfly tour.
Unbelievable.
On the West Coast. Yeah, we were living in Sacramento at the time, and we did the West Coast with Curtis Mayfield.
Wow.
And I get a lot of credit when people hear that. Oh, you were only 5.
Yeah.
But you got to think about this. Reggie, how does a 10-year-old boy get 2 of his 2 youngest brothers to play well enough in 3 short years to be on a major tour?
Right,
with
at that
major
age.
artist.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure, at
so
that
Reggie's
age.
the teacher. He's the one that really deserves the credit.
Unbelievable. Yeah, when I heard about that pulling the 2 strings off, I was like, how creative is that? And to be like that at that age. I mean, he was only 10 years old, like you say. And your parents, of course, a huge supporter of your music as well. Took you guys to see concerts. You saw James Brown. That must have helped as well, right?
Of course. Once our parents saw that we had an interest, they totally supported it.
Right.
Totally supported it. Took us to concerts, like you said. Every year, Santa Claus would bring a slightly better instrument.
Aw.
Then they started booking gigs for us, and my dad would always give us the garage.
Wow.
He'd take the car out and just let it be our music room.
Yeah.
And so they always supported us.
Yeah.
Totally. We wouldn't have been able to make it happen without that.
Now, you moved to Virginia in 1971, and did you played cello in school, yeah?
I did. By the time I got to 6th grade, that was in Virginia. In the 6th grade was when you could take up any kind of musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up in nightclubs thinking that an upright bass had to be big.
Right, sure, yeah.
I didn't know they made upright basses really small.
Aw.
so I chose to play cello.
Uh-huh. Because it fit you.
Which was a blessing. Yeah, because it fit.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Because the cello parts were always much more interesting than the double bass parts.
Uh-huh.
So I really learned how to read music well. I learned how to bow. And I learned about playing melodies.
Ah, important.
And that's what's really helped me transfer that over to the electric bass so that it's not just a, funky rhythm instrument. I can play melodies and things on it too. Yeah.
Right. So when you played cello in school, was it classical music that you played cello to?
Yeah. In school, it was totally classical music. Reading the Bach and the Beethoven, the Brandenburg and Chertoff and things like that.
Sure.
But of course, on my own time, I was playing anything on it. So I I was always able to keep my freedom on the instrument.
Mm-hmm. But that's
where
well-rounded at that age, to
Yeah,
have that classical background and then just to play some funk and whatever else you guys wanted to play.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and really cool. Now, while you were in high school, you guys played at a country music venue at Busch Gardens, right?
We did, yeah. Living in Virginia, we played at Williamsburg, in Williamsburg, Virginia, a place called Busch Gardens, the Old Country.
Mm-hmm.
And that came about from a pretty much a bad record deal.
Oh.
That for the first time had the five of us brothers not playing together all the time.
Ah.
And so what we thought was a bad situation, led to a good situation to where we actually learned a lot of different styles of music and learned how to play with a lot of different types of people, because we had only played together up until then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I actually got hired at Busch Gardens as a bluegrass fiddle player.
Wow.
They needed a fiddle player, and so my brother Roy, who was already working there, talked him into hiring me. And I had never played fiddle in my life.
But you were hired.
But I was hired. He convinced him. But what I did, I had about 2 weeks, maybe, if I remember correctly. I had about 2 weeks before my audition.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my orchestra teacher, and she was kind enough to let me borrow a violin.
Yeah.
And I just did a crash course. I researched the top fiddle tunes, like Orange Blossom Special or Devil Went Down to Georgia, and I just learned how to play them. And I went in an audition, got the gig, and then I actually had to learn how to play the show.
Yeah, right. Well, at least you passed the audition. You got the hard part down there. Now, going from cello to violin, because it's kind of, is it somewhat similar there, or?
Well, in concept, except that the violin is so much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're holding it under your chin. It's just weird. That's
It is.
a weird instrument.
It is. My daughter plays that instrument. I know. It's quite something.
Yeah.
It is quite
It
something.
is.
Yeah.
So it just impresses me, anyone who can play that instrument well.
Yeah. So,
But I faked it. I faked it through the audition well enough to do the job.
yeah.
And,
What kind of music were you listening to in high school besides you playing all the time? What were you listening to?
Well, the cool thing is this. Let's see. In '79, I guess I was in the ninth grade, so I graduated high school in '82.
Mm-hmm.
So we were moving into the disco era in the '80s. Mm-hmm. Keyboard, bass, and lots of drum machines. But before that, the '70s, the late '60s, you have to remember this was a time when pop music was not a style of music. Pop music just meant popular. It was short for popular.
Mm-hmm.
So the pop radio stations played everything as long as it was popular.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, we had classical stations, we had rock stations, R&B stations, but the pop stations played it all if it was popular. And so I was a product of that. So I was hearing everything. Mm-hmm. Of course, the funk and soul music and Motown and James Brown. But I was also hearing, rock music and Led Zeppelin and different things like that, the Beatles.
Yeah.
And so I grew up playing all of that stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I carried over into my high school years.
Right.
Also, but then now in high school, 82, 81, MTV's starting to hit. Yeah. And so now we've got rock bands, Eddie Van Halen, Cinderella.
Yeah.
Thomas Dolby, and a lot of different influences. And so I was hip to that also. But at the same time, there was a fusion scene hitting. So we had bands like Weather Report with Jaco Pastorius and Wayne Shorter, and we had Chick Corea's Return to Forever, and so I was also listening to that. So there was a lot going on back in that time.
So listening to all of that music, of course being influenced by some of it, I would guess, going home, you would practice, what did your, the Wooten brothers, by the time you were in high school, you were with, amazing artists, the Temptations, you were with War, Ramsey Lewis. What were you playing your own music? Were you playing covers? What were you guys playing?
Yeah, a little bit of all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were opening shows for a lot of those big artists, it would depend on what their kind of show was, would determine what kind of show we did.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were opening for War, which was known for maybe some soul, music, then we would do a set similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe throw in an original or two, but a lot of covers. But then if we were opening for Dexter Wansell or Ramsey Lewis, then it might be more jazzy or something like that.
Yep.
But fortunately, we were able to do all of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so young. It's just mind-boggling, like the Jackson 5, the Wooten 5. And yeah, really, just, that young age and to be able to do all that. When did you, like you just mentioned Jocko, which when I see you, I similarities there. When did you really pick up on him?
Well, oh man, when he joined Weather Report.
Yeah.
Did
you ever see him live? Did you ever see him?
I never did. No, I never saw him live, and I never met him. Even though it feels like I did. Mm-hmm. It feels like I did because I studied him so hard. Mm-hmm. I knew his dad. I knew his wife. I know his kids. Wow. But I never got to see him. My brothers took me to see Weather Report, but it was the tour when Jocko left. And my friend Victor Bailey took over.
Wow.
So I didn't know Victor back then. So I got to see Weather Report, but without Jocko.
Without Jocko, yeah. I've listened to a few different interviews that you've done, and the way that you learn music is you really don't stop until you learn it, and your technique of it is pretty unique, I think. I had heard one interview where you tried to play a song that Jocko did, I think on his self-titled release, and you didn't stop until you had it. And yeah. Do you do that still?
No, not as much. Mm-hmm. Not as much. But there are 3 times that come to mind when I was younger where I just stayed up. I stayed awake until I learned the song I was after. And one of them was definitely Jaco Pastorius' song called Portrait of Tracy, where he used all these bell tones, all these harmonics to make his bass sound like a piano.
How long were you up for, Victor?
It was definitely daylight.
Wow.
The next day. When I felt comfortable enough to stop. But I don't really remember as far as hours. I just know it was, at least a full day.
Wow. Wow.
But we have to remember, too, this was at a time in probably the 70s. So I was either using a cassette recorder or a vinyl. And so it wasn't like a digital thing, and I didn't have the tools that I could slow it down. I just have to either rewind the tape or pick up the needle and, put it back on the record and figure it out by ear that way.
Yeah. That's definitely. Yeah, that's definitely quite something to do. You mentioned there were 3 times. What were the other 2?
Well, one of them was a guitarist named Stanley Jordan.
Sure.
Yeah. Stanley Jordan, when he first came out, a friend of mine played me his first record, and it was crazy. Because he was playing with 2 hands on the neck, so he sounded like 2 guitar players.
Wow. Wow.
And my friend said, "That's one guitarist," and I was like, "No way!" So I listened closely, and then I could kind of figure out, that is one. He's got to be using 2 hands. So I borrowed one of my brother's guitars, and I stayed up all night until I learned one of his songs with 2 hands.
Wow.
And I just call it concentrated practice. It's like a concentrate. It's all in there. And I just focus, and I just wasn't going to sleep until I could do it.
Well, you did that. And who was the third person besides Jocko and Stanley Jordan?
Stanley Clark.
Yeah.
Stanley Clark. He was my hero even before Jocko. And I would hear him do some stuff that was just so fast and so powerful that I had to figure it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
I just stay awake until I did it.
Perseverance and persistence, I guess, is what we would call somebody with that trait. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, after high school, you went to, tell me the truth, you went to Nashville, to visit some friends.
I did.
And then, of course, met someone that turned out to be quite a collaborator and still is, Bela Fleck, of course.
That's right. Yeah, I that was not part of my plan.
Not moving to
know,
Nashville.
Definitely not moving to Nashville, but also, touring and playing and recording with a banjo player.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like an R&B, soul, jazz fusion guy, not a banjo,
Yeah.
But that was my own misconceptions, my own prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
When I first met Bela, one of the first things we did is we just jammed in his kitchen, the two of us.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And I was educated that day because I realized, wow, it doesn't matter what the instrument is. It's the musician that's making the music.
Absolutely.
And he was playing everything from Chick Corea, Spain, to Beatles songs, to funky songs. I mean, he could play anything on that banjo.
Mm-hmm. When you sat down in his kitchen, you played bass. Is that what you were playing with him, of course?
I played, I was playing bass,
Yeah. And then he was invited to perform on a PBS TV series, and that's how you guys, played together for the first time?
That's right. That was how we played live. He got asked to do the show called The Lonesome Pine Special.
Mm-hmm.
And this was right after we met. He said, look, I got called to do this television show, and he said, I just met this guy who plays harmonica like crazy. His name is Howard Levy. And he said, I'd love for you to play bass. And he says, now I'll just need a drummer.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
He said, you know any drummers? And I said, man, you got to meet my brother.
Oh, nice.
Nice. And one thing led to the other. I just got them on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
He and Roy, because Bela was asking me questions. What's he sound like? How does he play? And I was like, I don't know. It sounds like Roy,
Right.
And so I just got them on the phone. And from a phone conversation, Bela hired him for the television show.
Wow.
And that's how the Flecktones were born.
Unbelievable. Wow. And you're still going strong, 20 years, 30 years later.
30 years later, amazingly.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Wow. I saw you guys in August. Someone treated me for my birthday to see you with Chick Corea at the Egg up in Albany. That was a treat of a show to see. It was a treat of a show to play. I bet. And just with the legendary Chick Corea and with you and the Flecktones too, just unbelievable. So you also did a lot of great solo releases. Your first project, of course, A Show of Hands, recorded with just a 4-string bass and no multi-tracking.
That's true. I just wanted to see if I could do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once I did it, I was happy with it. I just kind of shopped it around just to see, does anybody want to put this out?
Right.
And a local label called Compass Records that still exists in Nashville, Tennessee, they put it out.
Right.
And I thank them for that.
Oh, I bet. And 30 years later, you're still living outside of Nashville, correct?
Yeah, I still live there.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you also created something incredibly cool, your Bass Nature Camp that is now the Victor Wooten Center for Music and Nature. Tell me about that. That sounds incredible.
Yeah, it really is incredible, and I know I'm biased, but it is. But it's because the students make it so incredible. Mm-hmm. But it was in the early 90s, I read a book called The Tracker by a naturalist named Tom Brown Jr. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of got hooked on the outdoors and how to learning how to live off the land and make fires with sticks and listen to the birds and tell what they're saying and, tracking animals. But as I was listening to Tom teach a class, in my mind I'm saying, this is music. This guy's teaching music. He's calling it nature, but it's music. And that was the thing that started me thinking about hosting a music camp with these principles, these natural principles. Mm-hmm. And so I started it in 2000, and it was only bass players at the time. For the first two years, I think we did one a year. Mm-hmm. But at the time, there were no bass camps. So, hundreds of people were trying to come, and we were only taking 50 at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we had to turn so many people away. So then after a couple of years, we went to 2 a year. And basically now, this is our 19th season.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It surprises me, too. We still do the bass camp, which is only for bass players, but now most of our camps are for any instrument.
That's beautiful.
So this year we're doing a camp every month from April through October, a different topic every month. Most of them are all instruments. We do different ages and different topics, and it's so much fun. It's the highlight of my year to get to do these camps for these students from around the world.
And they come to your Wooten Woods right outside of Nashville. And how long are these camps? Are they like a weekend, a week? How long is the duration of those?
Right. Some of them are 3 days. Like we do what we call a jam camp, where it's all about just jamming and playing together. And that's a 3-day camp. Our music theory camp is a 3-day camp. But most of them are 5 or more days.
Wow.
Our typical camp, like the bass nature camp or the music nature camp, and music nature just means any instrument. Vocalists are always welcome.
Really?
Those are 6. Oh yeah, totally. Those are 6-day camps, and I think we do 1 7-day camp or 2 7-day camps, but they're different depending on the topic.
Right. And I saw there's still a few dates available at various different camps, VictorWooten.com, of course. So, and you have accommodations there, or you can pitch a tent, or if you want a little something different, you have something nearby where people can stay as well. So it's kind of fits for like whatever you want to do. But talk about out in the woods, it just looks so beautiful. What is it, like 150 acres you have there, Victor?
Yeah, exactly. 150 acres on a river. And everything's all inclusive. There's cabins for everyone to sleep. There's a big bathhouse with showers. We have a full stage. We have a full kitchen with an incredible chef. And I'm there 24/7. I sleep there. I eat there with the students. We hang out late at night. We sit around a fire and tell jokes or have question answer. It's just so much fun. And for me, one of the best things about the camp is that whole mystique of Victor Wooten's here, you know.
Right.
By the second day, that's gone.
Beautiful.
You know?
Yeah,
it is beautiful. And we're just friends hanging out, learning from each other.
Oh, man. What a special place to be like. Sounds terrific. That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I'm not the only instructor. I have a group of amazing instructors, and we always have surprise guests that the students didn't know were coming, and those could be anybody, and I mean literally anybody.
Anybody, yeah. Wow,
yeah.
Awesome. Now, you also co-lead a summer bass workshop at the famed Berklee College of Music in Boston. Must be a pretty great experience as well.
It is, because, again, we have people from around the world, and Berklee is a legendary college. Yeah. But the bass department is run by my longtime friend, Steve Bailey. And we've been teaching together since the early 90s. We've done a few records together, and he was very instrumental into helping me get together my very first camp in the year 2000. So he's been there for 19 years, right by my side, and has been helping me. So now that he runs the bass department at Berklee, he's brought me in, and we bring some of the elements from camp into the college atmosphere. And it's really, really working well. I thank Steve for that.
Yeah, I bet. You must see some amazing talent yourself coming through those doors of Berklee. And it's so great to mentor such young people. And wonderful.
Yeah, that's great.
I must speak, while we're speaking of you teaching, how wonderful that must be to give back and to teach and to listen and to learn even more yourself, if that's even possible. But your book, The Music Lesson, Spiritual Search for Growth Through Music, I just had guests on during the 4:00 hour who brought that book in because they knew you were going to be on my show afterwards. And they say almost every musician they've ever known or spoken to has read your book. I know it's required reading at Berklee and also at Stanford. Are you writing a sequel? Is that true?
It is true. I've been staying up kind of too late every night writing it and getting it done. But I've reached that point to where it's so much fun that I want to spend every free moment writing. But yeah, it is a sequel. This book starts exactly where the last one ended. And the story continues, but we address some different issues in this book. We're getting a little bit more serious. But it's still fun and funny and entertaining.
When do you expect it to be out, like printed and out to the public?
I don't know, but my hope is this year.
Ah, wow.
Because this is the 10-year anniversary of the first book, The Music Lesson. Mm-hmm. And so I really want to get it out during this 10-year anniversary. But I just have to finish. And I'm close. Uh-huh. I'm close. I'm just, maybe 3 chapters from being done.
Oh, that is pretty close. Yeah. What do you sit with, like a computer? You hand? How do you write?
Yeah,
peacefully, quiet by yourself.
It doesn't even have to be quiet because I grew up with 4 brothers, so I'm used to
nothing's quiet.
But yeah. Exactly. But it is me and a laptop, and I use Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
I'm just typing in Word. That's the only way I know. Mm-hmm. There may be a better way, but I don't know it.
Right.
But yeah, I type in there, and it tells me when I've misspelled a word. And gives me suggestions when I want a different word, so it works for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. The first copy, of course, sold pre-sold hundreds before it even was released, and just the. I don't know, the lessons that teaches. I think a lot of people are really going to look forward to the sequel to see how you've even added on to such a legendary piece of literature that's already happened. So,
thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
I think people will like it. I'm hoping. I think they'll like it. Because there's some different eye-opening concepts surrounding music. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we just play music and we think music's on an instrument, but then you sit the instrument down and you realize, wow, this instrument's not making a sound, mm-hmm. and it lets you know that the music's coming from you. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people have thought a lot of these same things, but for whatever reason haven't voiced it or didn't know how to voice it. And so I believe a lot of people like the book because it resonates with something they've already been thinking and feeling. And finally, someone's talked about it,
right?
And so I'm trying to continue that with this next one.
Beautiful. Well, on a personal note, my daughter is a violinist and studying music performance, and she's starting college this coming September. And I'm getting her this book to read it before she starts college. And
oh, wow, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it's important, especially if you're going to pursue something like that, to have different parts of your mind opened up a little differently sometimes, So yeah, really cool. I'd love to talk a little bit about 2008 and one of your mentors there, Stanley Clarke and Marcus Miller. Of course, you guys released an album and started playing together. Is it true that you guys played together because Bass Player Magazine awarded Stanley a Lifetime Achievement Award, and they asked you and Marcus to present the award?
That is pretty much the truth. That was the kind of like the impetus that made us really decide to do it. Mm-hmm. We had talked about it for quite a few years, but everybody's busy and doing their own things, so we'd forget about it. But exactly what happened was Bass Player Magazine had Marcus and I present Stanley with an award, and someone asked us to join Stanley to play his, world-class famous song, School Days. Mm-hmm. And when the 3 of us got up there, it was like, okay, this is it. We have to do this now. Wow. Because it was so much fun. It was so musical. We didn't have to talk about it. And the 3 of us just knew that song. And if Stanley went up high, Marcus went down low, I found a place in the middle. Yeah. And we just kind of danced around each other without talking so musically that when the Bass Player Magazine came out with the Stanley Clarke interview, in the interview, Stanley was saying, oh, yeah, we had such a good time. We're going to do a tour. We're going to record a record. And I called Stanley up. I was like, are you serious? Are we really going to do this now? He's like, yeah, man, we have to.
It's in print. We have to do it now, yeah. And then you released your first album, Thunder, right?
Thunder, yes.
Yeah. How often you guys jam now? Like, how often you guys get together?
Not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this year is also the 10-year anniversary of that record.
Yeah.
So I am hoping we can get together at least 2 weeks and do a little 10-year reunion tour.
Oh, that would be lovely. You've got a busy year ahead of you.
I know. I kind of don't see where it's going to fit in with. I was talking to Marcus just a week or so ago, and he's so busy.
Yeah.
And we all are. So it may have to wait till 2019, but I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, I'm sure the public hopes that you can do it again, too, because, boy, to see you guys, that'd be pretty great, and get some nice cities where you can get something together. And, yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. You've worked with such amazing people, Victor. Geez, I don't even know where to start the list, but like we mentioned, Chick Corea, of course, Dave Matthews Band, Keb Mo, Government Mules, in all different genres. And it's just really something incredible that you've done with all these people and put your own stamp on stuff. And, it's
well,
pretty amazing
I'm
stuff.
very fortunate. I'm fortunate for people like Bela Fleck, or Chick Corea, or Mike Stern, who allow me to do what I do.
Right.
You know, I those guys never say, okay, I need you to play this way. Mm-hmm. You know, they hire me for my voice, and they allow me to express it. So I really appreciate that.
It's something nice when you have the freedom to have your own creativity and see where it takes you. Beautiful stuff. You formed your own record label.
Yeah, I did. Vix Records, VIX.
Very cool. And your newest release, Tripnotics, is released on Vix Records. Tell us more about Vix Records.
Yeah, it was just in response to not understanding record labels. I mean, record labels are good for the most part. They do a good job, and especially my experience with Compass, the first record label that put out my record. Mm-hmm. But it is difficult to find out where the money goes.
Mm-hmm. I bet.
Like if a record sells for $10 and you get $1, mm-hmm. Even if you have a good deal, you're only going to get like $1. Where's the other $9 going? And at first, the argument is that, well, we paid for the record, we're doing advertising, you know, we're putting out these ads, so we have to make our money back. And so you say, okay, cool, I understand that. But, you know, 10 years later, once they've made their money back, why are they still getting 9 and I'm still getting 1? Mm. Shouldn't that percentage reverse? Mm-hmm. You know, because now the record label is not advertising. The advertisement comes from the artist out on the road.
Sure. The music
and the
itself.
Artist, mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So the percentage should change, and it doesn't. You still get a small percentage. And in many cases, the record label owns the record because they paid for it. They own it. Mm-hmm. So in the end, the record label's kids are going to own your music and not your own kids.
Right.
And I like record labels. They've helped me, get records around the world and help my career. But after a while, I was tired of that.
Sure.
And it's like I want my kids to inherit my music. I want to own it.
Right.
And when a record sells, I want to know where the money's going. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in these days, it's easier than ever to put out your own record and to build an audience because of the internet.
Yeah.
And so I just took the steps to do that. And now for my last, I don't know how many records, I've been putting them out myself.
Wow. And wonderful ones too, Tripnotics. Tell us about this trio that you're touring with as well. You got...
Yeah, Dennis Chambers, a wonderful drummer.
Yeah, slightly.
And, Bob Franceschini on saxophone.
Yeah, wow.
And I had played with Dennis before, many, many, many years ago. And I found out about Bob through playing with jazz guitarist Mike Stern.
Ah, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I played with Bob a lot with Mike. And then sometimes Dennis, Bob, and I would play behind Mike. Uh-huh. And so in playing with Bob and Dennis together, I realized quite a few years ago, man, I would love to one day do my own project with these two guys. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until last year that we got to put the record together.
Right,
But
right in your
it's
studio.
so much fun.
Oh my God, yeah, right in that
Yeah.
studio too. I saw like a YouTube video of your studio where you kind of were showing everybody around a little bit, and yeah, and your door there with all the great signatures that you have.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. It is
Tripnotics,
fun.
it is like a trip that you're taking. You've got the takeoff and you've got the landing part. You performed
Right.
it for us at the Town Crier here in Beacon, New York, and continue to
Mm-hmm.
perform it for worldwide audiences. And
Yeah.
what incredible music. Tell me about the name. I know where it came from, but I want you to tell us how you came up
Yeah,
with
well,
Tripnotics.
Well, for one, I like made-up names that make you think it's real. Sort of like my one of my earlier records was called Palmistry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like palmistry, or it's like a mystery, or whatever, but it's made up. You know, and so basically, with this new record, Tripnotics, we were looking for a word that, if you researched it meant three of something, like, you know, triumvirate, triptych, or something like that. You know, triangulation or whatever. But we couldn't find anything that we really liked. And it just in kind of like a little brainstorming session, it was Bob that ended up coming up with Tripnotics, which is sort of like hypnotic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And the first version, I think it was, I can't remember how we spelled it, but there was a DJ with that name.
Ah.
So we had to change it and change the spelling and everything to make it our own. But it is, you know, it's like taking a hypnotic trip or whatever. We just like the word.
Yeah, and I kind of like the spelling with the two Y's. It just kind of looks like it flows together really neat. And where do people buy your music? And I know there's all the downloads and all that stuff. I get all that.
Sure.
But online, you got a great merch store as well with all kinds of videos and
people
DVDs.
can go to my website.
Yeah, VictorWooten.com, of course, and
That's right. That's
buy directly from the artist. That's what I always try to do and tell people to do, because
it does mean a lot.
It does mean a lot, right? And it's so important to do that. Listen, you're going out on the road. You got some exciting things going on. You've got Bela Fleck, of course, with the Flecktones yourselves going on, and then you're going to Japan for just three tours, three shows.
Only three shows in Japan. I can't believe it. We need to be there for like a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're doing three shows in Japan, then we'll come back for a little while and hit the road again. It's busy time.
A lot of busy time. And then, of course, this summer you've got your wonderful nature camp, your music camps there, and you got a lot going on, Victor. And thank you for all your music. I mean, you have inspired countless thousands of people, and with your words, your book, the music lesson, and just your performances. Thank you for all you do. You are such a gift. I'd like to just take a few more minutes and have you end the show the way that I've seen you end the show, and talk about, your mom seemed to be such an inspiration to you as well, and talking about what you did at the end of the show, because it really affected me, about bombs and love bombs.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea, actually, I got the idea for it, came to me while I was doing a TED Talk about music and language and life. And for me, music is a great way to teach or talk about life and to address issues. You know, because sometimes if you mention religion or God or politics or racial issues, it can get touchy. Mm-hmm. But I can talk about the exact same things in music. You know, and music is a great example for the way life should be. For example, we have to listen to each other. A band is better when all the instruments are different. Mm-hmm. So in music, we celebrate our differences and things like that. You know, everybody shows up to agree. You know, it's just a really, 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 really cool medium of expression. Right. But, different than back in like Mozart's days, music is not supported. You know, it's not. I mean, like the government will support sports, but not music.
Right.
And so we're on our own. But music is so powerful. To steal something that my brother Reggie says, if a politician tells everyone to raise their hands in the air, or if a politician or a policeman tells everyone to raise their hands in the air, or if a musician tells everyone to raise their hands in the air, you know which one's going to get the better response. Right? The musician. And what we do with music is very powerful because people will pay hard-earned money to come hear us do what we love to do. And so it's a powerful thing, and you're on your own because there's not really money from a government standpoint behind it. You're on your own to make it happen. But our governments will spend trillions of dollars on bombs to blow each other up, to threaten people, to prove a point. And I asked the question during my TED Talk, who's working on the bomb to make people love each other, to make us get along, listen to each other? And I say I believe we already have it, and it's called music. And every country has their own version of it, and it totally works. It brings people together. You don't have to know anything about it to get it. It's a powerful, powerful medium, and it's something that we can all take part in.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I try to do with my music is to drop what I call a Cupid bomb, which is a bomb that makes you fall in love with everyone else.
That's beautiful.
And that's exactly what happens at a concert.
Yeah, because it really doesn't matter what your political background is, your religious background. Music is the unification of all of us. And
right, exactly. Yeah, during the concert, you might be sitting or standing next to a person who voted, for your the person you hate, or you don't care who they pray to. You don't care how much money they have, or the color of their skin.
Right.
The music just brings us together, and that's wonderful.
Well, thank you for giving your gift to the world because it is, I don't have any adjectives. I remember when I met you, I said, I just have no words to tell you what your music has meant to so many people and even what it has meant to me personally. But it has truly been beautiful watching you and listening to you. I look forward to your sequel to your book. I look forward to more of your music and seeing you perform live again and just wishing you all the very best that life has, Victor. And you have given so much of yourself to people. And I hope everything is just coming your way that is filled with love and health and happiness. I wish that for you and your family. And thank you for your time here today on my show. And you are a gift to the planet Earth, and the world is a better place for having you in it. So I thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's very sweet.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Just speaking the truth. And safe travels out there, friend. And I will hopefully see you again at some point. And thanks again for your time today. Means a lot.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your support. Thanks for supporting us musicians.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, of course. And my pleasure. And we'll be sure to spin more of Tripnotics and all your great music here on the show. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful evening. Thanks, Victor.
You too. You take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, Victor Wooten was just on the show here. You are tuned into LocalMotion on 91.3. It is 5:58 already. Dr. J is in the house, and interview ran a little bit longer, but I was not about to hang up the phone and change anything about it. So the legendary Victor Wooten was just here on the phone. If you want to learn more about him, do so. If you haven't ever heard of him, VictorWooten.com. If you've heard of him, you already know what a master he is. He was named one of the top 10 bass players of all time by Rolling Stone magazine. He's a 5-time Grammy Award winner, and he has written a book about 10 years ago called The Music Lesson, and it's required reading at both Berklee College and Stanford University, and for most musicians, I think, as well. So I just thank everybody for tuning in. Dr. J, I'm going to be done here in a minute, and I won't do my happenings because I don't want to. Are you sure? Okay. He's such a wonderful gentleman, Dr. J. He's coming up with Irie Groove. Okay, so as I do typically at the end of my show in alphabetical order, I do musical happenings and in hopes of getting you to go see some great live music that we have in our area. So let's start this. Bardavon, UPAC, bardavon.org. Eddie Izzard, February 16. George Lopez, February 17. Louis Black, February 24. Andrew Bird, March 7th. David Byrne, March 10th at UPAC. At BSP Kingston and bspkingston.com. Friday, Uptown Swing with La Familia. Saturday, the Bobby Pageant Beauty Pageant Release Show. Sunday, Oh Death and In the Kitchen. At Colony Woodstock, they're on break until February 14th. Daryl's House Club, Pauling, New York, and darylshouseclub.com. Tonight, the Jason Gizzer Band. Thursday, Mark Stein Project. Friday and Saturday, Rumors, a Fleetwood Mac tribute. Saturday brunch with Uncommon Ground, and Sunday brunch with the Alexis P. Suter and the Ministers of Sound. At the Derby on Main Street in Poughkeepsie, every Tuesday is Jazz Night. At the Falcon in Marlborough and live at thefalcon.com. Tonight, Petey Hop hosts the Roots and Blues session at the Falcon Underground. Upstairs is a split bill with the package and mix. Thursday, Latin Jazz Express, the music of Tito Puente. Thursday at the Underground, Andy Stack's American Soup. Friday, Chris O'Leary. Friday at the Underground, Decora. Saturday, Jeff Pitchell and the Texas Flood. Saturday at the Falcon Underground, Bendy Effect. And Sunday brunch with Big Joe Fitz and the Lo-Fis. At the Fisher Center at Bard College. Tickets at fishercenter.bard.edu. February 3rd and 4th, an opera workshop. February 17th and 18th, Mahler's 7th Symphony with the orchestra now. At High Falls Cafe, Thursday, singer-songwriter night. Saturday, the Jim Decker Band. The Hudson Jazz Festival happening at Hudson Hall in Hudson, New York, February 16th through 18th. Tickets, hudsonhall.org. At Infinity Hall in Norfolk, Connecticut, infinityhall.com. Every Thursday is open mic. Friday, Joint Chiefs album release party. Saturday, The Machine, a Pink Floyd tribute, and Sunday sessions in the Bistro. At Keegan Ailes in Kingston and keeganailes.com. Thursday, James Hearn. Friday, The X-Files. Saturday, In the Pocket. At Levon Helm Studio in Woodstock, New York, levonhelm.com. February 17th, The Wait. March 3rd, David Bromberg. March 9th, The Zombies. March 10th, Jorma Kaukonen. March 24, Shovels and Rope. At New York Restaurant in Catskill, New York, Jazz Brunch on Sunday featuring Pete Levin, Mike D'Amico, Peter O'Brien, and Chris Payson. At Quinn's in Beacon, also find them on Facebook. Every Monday is Monday Night Jazz Night. February 11th is Eugene Chadbourne. At Rosendale Cafe, Thursday is Salsa Thursday, and Saturday, Out on a Limb. Town Crier Cafe in Beacon, New York, towncrier.com. Tonight, open mic. Thursday, salon show featuring Diamond Hotel. Friday, Lara Hope and the Arctones. And Saturday, Eric Gales Band. The Winter Hoot, February 2nd through 4th at the Ashokan Center in Olive Bridge. And last but not least, Acoustic Music Land Cruise, February 23 to 25 at the Sullivan Events Center in Rock Hill, New York. Info at canilomusic.com. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in for what I won't forget anytime soon of a show. I will return next week with amazing drummer Doug Yoel. Until then, stay tuned right where you're at for Irie Groove with Dr. J.